You want to know a secret? Your friends don't know the right wide receivers to add this week, but you will. Add these 10 wide receivers before they break out. And we're starting with Van Jefferson, who is a must add because he's close to returning and the Rams desperately need him. Because what you're seeing right here is Allen Robinson's game logs, and the wide receiver 2 is only top 25 receiving yards once out of 5 games. But that's not all for how bad the wide receiver core has been. Ben Skowronek ranks 78th in wide receiver efficiency this year. It is just Cooper Kupp out there for the receivers, and that's hurting this offense. So here's what you need to know about Jefferson. In 2021, he actually ranked 6th amongst all fantasy wide receivers at generating points versus man coverage. And a lot of this had to do with his ability to get open downfield and how Stafford was solid and still is against man coverage. 7th last year was Jefferson in yards per reception. Translation, you can expect a lot of big plays right away for Jefferson when he returns. So consider him a priority, but then grab this second-year wide receiver. And that would be Rondale Moore, who is currently the #1 wide receiver add on waivers. Because Rondale Moore has set a career high in back-to-back weeks with snaps played, 86% last week and 91% this past week, leading to 8 targets. But here's the best part. Even with AJ Green returning, he ended up playing more snaps and ran more routes than Green. He stayed on the field more times than not in 2 wide receiver sets over AJ Green. And this all means that he is now an every down player, which is going to lead to a breakout week real soon. Add him and this rookie. And that rookie is going to be Alec Pierce. Now here's a big reason why he had a breakout game last week. Ashton Dulin, the wide receiver 4 on the team, who is a very talented player, size and speed specimen if you will, injured his foot on Thursday Night Football in week 5 and he did not return. This allowed Alec Pierce to play 47 snaps and run a season high 36 routes. His 59% of the snaps and 9 targets were also a season high. Now this is where things get interesting. Check this out. Pierce came into last week averaging 20.1 yards per reception. He was number 4 in the NFL. That means he was basically a boomer bust player being targeted downfield. But his role changed week 5 after this Dulin injury. See for yourself. Pierce posted 8 catches for 81 yards, so he posted about 10 yards per reception as opposed to the 20 yards per reception, which is a much more consistent number for fantasy production. Track that news on Ashton Dulin, but either way, this should now cement Alec Pierce as the wide receiver 3 for the Colts. So go get him, but then avoid this next rookie. Do not add the Bills wide receiver Khalil Shakir. Now this past week, there's no doubt about it. He looked great. He played 70% of the snaps, ran a very elite 28 routes, mostly from the slot, and this led to 5 targets, a touchdown, and 16.5 fantasy points. Solid week for the kid. But here's the problem. Buffalo was missing 3 wide receivers on Sunday. They were down Jamison Crowder, who will be out another at least 3 weeks on IR, but Isaiah McKenzie was a game time decision, didn't end up playing, but is trending to play in week 6. And they were also missing Jay Kumaro, who, believe it or not, is a big piece of this offense. He plays ahead of Khalil Shakir when he's healthy because he's a solid big weapon, not only for the red zone, but in the run blocking game. So here is your takeaway. McKenzie and Kumaro are trending to play next week, which would make Khalil Shakir the wide receiver 5 again, which means he'd be irrelevant for fantasy. Avoid him, but get this AFC wide receiver. And that would be Donovan Peoples-Jones, who now has 3 games of 7+ targets on the year, and he's a top 25 wide receiver, yet he's on waivers in over 50% of leagues. But here's the real reason why you want him. Peoples-Jones is a size speed specimen. He's 215 pounds. He has top 1% burst of all time, and he ended up running a top 10% speed score at the combine. And now this all matters because Deshaun Watson is due back sooner than you think. And this matters because Peoples-Jones is a deep threat with that size and speed, and Deshaun Watson is top 5 in the NFL in deep ball accuracy since 2019. So get Peoples-Jones and this next receiver while you still can. And also hit that subscribe button. You want to get George Pickens before he absolutely breaks out. Over the last 3 weeks, he has 23 targets, which ranks top 20 in the NFL. Yet he is still available in 45% of Yahoo leagues and 50% of sleeper leagues. If he's out there in your league, go get him because he's seeing highly valuable targets. After week 5, George Pickens now ranks 2nd in the NFL behind another rookie, Chris Olave, with 13 deep targets of 20+ yards on the season. And deep targets lead to massive plays. Translation, the breakout game is about to happen. Get Pickens and this veteran wide receiver. And we liked him in the draft process as like a last round pick, 18th round pick in deeper leagues or best ball. It's Randall Cobb for the Packers, who had 12 targets this past week. And we were basically told that this was going to happen. Aaron Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show just 5 days before this big game for Cobb that Randall deserves a lot more snaps and he's made plays in every single game. And then he went on to name those plays, and that's what this video shows right here. He said, quote, he needs to get more snaps. All he does is make plays. So here's what happens next. Cobb ends up running 29 routes, the most he's ran on the season, and playing 63% of the snaps. Oh yeah, the most he's played on the season. And he earned 33% of the Packers targets, the most he's seen in over 4 years. So stash Cobb right now and this rookie wide receiver. And that's Patriots 2nd round rookie Tyquan Thornton, the speedster, who was elevated to the active roster just on Sunday, and then he ended up playing and made his debut. And in his debut, he plays 46% of the snaps, but the interesting thing was he ran 14 routes, which was more than Devontae Parker and just 3 less than Kendrick Bourne for the 2nd most on the team. So now here's what you need to know about the rookie Thornton. This dude is an athletic freak. He's arguably the fastest wide receiver from this draft class. He has a ton of of burst, and he has a great catch radius. When you put it all together, he was probably a top 3 or top 4 rookie wide receiver in terms of pure athleticism. And the dude knows how to get open. Even though he's a little bit smaller in terms of size, he still commanded over 30% targets in college. So the dude knows how to run routes and gets open. That's why he was taken in the second round. And in the preseason, he was practicing as a starter. He's going to get those snaps soon for the Patriots, which is why you need to add him before that happens and then get this next wide receiver. And that is Zay Jones, who returned this past week after missing last week. And surprisingly, Zay Jones is available in over 50% of sleeper leagues and over 70% of Yahoo leagues. This is a major mistake. And here's why. Like I mentioned, Jones missed week 4, but he returned right back to a full-time role in week 5, running 42 routes, an elite number, playing 59 snaps, an elite number, that's 80%, and he earned 8 targets. And these 8 targets aren't a fluke, because now through 5 games, he's averaging 8 targets per game, and this offense is only going to get better and more efficient as the season goes on. So your takeaway is that Zay Jones is a flex-worthy player in a lot of leagues, yet he's available in over 60%. So add him and my cheat sheet material, which has everything you need to win your fantasy league and beat your friends this year. And the big thing, there's just a one-time payment of $10 for the entire season. And if you don't win your fantasy league, I'll refund that $10. This is a risk-free endeavor for you. So if you'd like to join the thousands of people using the cheat sheet right now to win their fantasy league, well, click the link in the description to learn more. Then I suggest adding and stashing Kadarius Toney, who has missed the last 3 weeks with injury. But when he returns, he'll be the clear wide receiver 1 because the Giants desperately need him. Their wide receiver core is in shambles, and you can see for yourself. Because this past week in week 5, they were forced to trot out there as their top 3 receivers, Marcus Johnson, Darius Slayton, and Richie James. On most teams, these guys are practice squad players. Whereas Kadarius Toney was literally top 5 at getting open versus NFL man coverage last year as a rookie. So stay patient with Toney and this rookie wide receiver. And the patience with this guy just comes down to waiting for him to return. Jamison Williams should return potentially in just 2 or 3 weeks. And reminder, he put up nearly 1,600 yards last year at Alabama against some of the toughest cornerbacks in college football. Now, if you have a lot of bench spots or you're in a deeper league, these next guys are who you want. Starting with Trent Sherfield, because Tyreek Hill ended up getting hurt last week and he did not return. And Sherfield has already been operating as a wide receiver 3, but this past week when Tyreek got hurt, he saw even more usage. He played 44 snaps and ran 28 routes. He operated as the wide receiver 2 behind Jalen Waddle. And speaking of guys who might break out, let's go to the Chiefs. And I'm talking about the rookie Skyy Moore, who he plays tonight on Monday Night Football, so maybe he'll go off and he won't be as much of a secret, but what we're seeing in his usage is encouraging. Because in week 4, he ended up seeing his most routes run 11. It translated to 4 targets after he only had 1 target on the year before that, and he started to split the wide receiver 3 reps with McCole Hardman, who so far this year has been a letdown. So track closely what happens on Monday night. Hopefully he stays healthy and even has a good game. You're going to want to add him. And you'll also want to add another Patriots receiver. Again, this is for deeper leagues, but Kendrick Bourne finally is out of the doghouse and seeing usage. Nelson Aguilar ended up getting hurt this past week, and Kendrick Bourne passed Devontae Parker, playing more snaps and running 2 times as much routes as Parker. And what this means is that Kendrick Bourne was extremely efficient in getting open. So go get these wide receivers before your friends do this week. And then make sure you know the proper running backs to add this week, which this video right here will help you do. Reminder, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button.